Hey guys, welcome back. For today's video, we're going to be talking about Sid Meier's Civilization. So Civilization is a series of turn-based strategy video games first released in 1991. Sid Meier developed the first game in the series and had creative input for most of the rest, and his name is usually included in the formal title of the games, which is Sid Meier's Civilization. There have been 6 main games in the series, a number of expansion packs and spin-off games, as well as board games inspired by these video games as well. The series has continued a formulative example of the 4X genre, in which players achieve victory through 4 routes: explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate. The name was selected late in the process, but after realizing that Tresham had already published a 1988 board game of the same name, Microprose was able to negotiate a license for the name from Avalon Hill. The addition of Meier's name to the title, identifying it as Sid Meier's Civilization, was from Steely's suggestion at the time. Since games like Civilization diverged from Microprose combat simulators, Steely suggested the addition of Meier's name as to capture the interest of players that would recognize Meier's name from the previous titles he developed and give these other games a try. Meir found this worked and continued to use his name as part of the series' branding. One of the titles included Sid Meier's Colonization, during which Meir worked with another recent hire, Brian Reynolds, as he had done with Shelley. With Meir less involved with Microprose, he opted to give Reynolds the development lead for creating Civilization 2, the first sequel to any of the Meirs' previous games. Meir gave Reynolds some advice on the direction to take the game, and subsequently Reynolds worked with Doug Kaufman, another Microprose employee that had been working on writing their adventure games for Civilization 2. Steely had pushed Microprose to look towards home video consoles and arcade games based on their flight simulator software, but these investments did not pan out, putting the company into debt. After trying to arrange financing from an initial public offering, Steely opted instead to sell the company to Spectrum Holobyte in 1993 and eventually sold his remaining shares in the company and departed it. Initially, Microprose was kept as a separate company from Spectrum Holobyte. By 1996, Spectrum Holobyte opted to consolidate its brand under the Microprose name, with that cutting of many Microprose staff. At this point, Meir, Reynolds, and Jeff Briggs, one of Microprose's developers and music composers, left to found Firaxis. Firaxis published additional titles by Meir, the first being Sid Meier's Gettysburg. Lacking the rights to the Civilization name, they subsequently produced Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri, a space-based Civilization-style game, released in 1999 and published by Electronic Arts. Alpha Centauri uses a game engine similar to the one used in Civilization 2, and its storyline continues from where the Civilization franchise ends, namely the colonization of a planet in Alpha Centauri. In April of 1997, Activision acquired the rights to the name Civilization on its PC games from Avalon Hill. 7 months later, Avalon Hill and Activision sued Microprose over trademark infringement over the rights to the Civilization name. In response to the lawsuit, Microprose bought Heartland Trefoil in December of 1997. This move sought to establish Microprose as the same preeminent holder of worldwide computer game and board game rights under the Civilization brand. In January of 1998, Microprose countersued Avalon Hill and Activision for false advertising, unfair competition, trademark infringement, and unfair business practice as a result of Activision's decision to develop and publish the Civilization computer games. In July of 1998, Avalon Hill and Activision settled their case against Microprose out of court. Under the terms of the settlement, Microprose kept all the rights to the Civilization brand. Avalon Hill had to pay Microprose $411,000, and Activision required a license from Microprose to publish Civilization Call to Power, released in March of 1999. Avalon Hill accepted the settlement as there are already discussions for Hasbro Interactive to acquire both Avalon Hill and Microprose. In January 2001, the French company Infogames bought Hasbro Interactive for $100 million, which included the rights to the Civilization franchise, the rights to the Atari brand, and Hasbro's Game.com handheld game console. And in May 2003, Infogrames changed the names of Infogrames Interactive to Atari Interactive. Civilization uses historical aspects from the development of mankind's civilization and turns take place over a timescale that starts with the dawn of civilization in the millennia before 1 AD and continue through the present times and beyond. On each turn, players oversee their civilization's government, determine what technology, culture, and civics the civilization should develop, engage in diplomacy with other civilizations, set production and place improvements within city, and move their civilization units across the game world's map, often engaging in combat with other civilizations' enemy units. Games are played on either predefined or procedurally generated maps, creating a world with varied terrain, including mountains and oceans. Map generation can be set by several parameters, such as average climate or landmass types. Maps can vary in size, which will affect the number of civilizations that can be played by that map. Players either select or are randomly assigned a civilization led by a historical figure, based on several factual reigns and empires, including the Romans, Aztecs, and Americans. The civilization choice provides certain unique bonuses, units, and improvements for that player. Players start at random locations on the map and must find their city by becoming its default capital until changed by the player. And they explore the map and lift its fog of war to find out what is nearby, including potential resources that can be used in production, and go where the other civilizations are located. Cities will generate several resources based on how large the city is, which affects how many map spaces it takes up. Food, which is required to sustain large cities and allow them to grow. Production units used to determine how fast a city can build new units and improvements. Science and culture, with affect progress along the technology tree. And currency, which can be used by the player for several tasks, including upkeep of cities and units, speeding up production of a unit, or offered as gifts in diplomacy actions. Once a city is founded, the player can then start to produce new units or city improvements. Units include military units, commerce-based units such as caravans to establish trade routes with other cities, and civilian-based groups like workers to help improve the land areas around a city, such as by constructing fields or mines. Cities will grow over time, expanding to cover more territory on the map while requiring more food and money to maintain, and players can create units that will be able to find new cities and expand their empire. The player also oversees the general aspects of the civilization. They set specific types of government that can affect production rates, growth, and other factors, though these government civics must be gained through research and cultural growth. The player also manages the tax rates on the cities, which helps to improve and collect currency to pay for unit and improvement maintenance. The player must manage the happiness of their population, which can be impacted by government choices, taxes, nearby military units and actions, overcrowded cities and pollution, and mitigated by special units and city improvements. Some games provide a means to play asynchronously, where each player is given a set amount of time, such as within a day, to decide their actions and then send results to a game server. When the determines the result of the actions, this returns the information to all of the players and they decide the winner. So that concludes our video on Sid Meier's Civilization, how it originated, developed, and everything that has to do with the game, including its plot and how to play. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!